Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Game Changer. I'm Maryam Zia. The United Nations top court has ordered Israel to take measures to prevent genocide and to allow humanitarian aid. The International Court of Justice issued their ruling on Friday in a case that was filed by South Africa, and judges in their ruling, of course, voted overwhelmingly in favor of 6 measures that included asking Israel to punish those inciting genocide. Of course, this issue, of course, when we talk about Israel-Palestine war and Israeli aggression, this has historic basis as well. In today's program, we will be talking about different dimensions of ICJ's ruling, because we know that this is a major turning point in humanity when a country from global south has taken a case to in fact ICJ against any colonial settler, that is Israel in this case. And of course this ruling is very significant, but in today's program we will be talking about the magnitude of this ruling and how this is going to be impacting the situation on ground in Palestine, in occupied and besieged Gaza. And of course when we talk about the legal recourse, what will happen if Israel of course refuses to comply with these measures or with this ruling that has been ordered by ICJ. We will be talking about, we will also be discussing, does a sustainable future exist for Gaza, or the destruction has gone too far? To discuss this and more, we are joined in the studios by Mr. Sheharyar, who is commentator international affairs. Welcome to the program. We are also joined by Mr. Javed Siddiq, who is senior analyst. Welcome to the program. And we are joined online by Dr. Javed, who is senior analyst. Welcome to the program. Mr. Javed, let me start with you. In your opinion, how significant is this ICJ's ruling on Israel? And of course, what is the significance of South Africa taking this case to ICJ?
Well, I think it's a huge moral victory for the Palestinian people who are being subjected to brutalities and who are being subjected to genocide. I think South Africa must be saluted and praised for taking this move and taking this action, challenging Israel's genocide effort in Gaza and other areas. I think the reason why South Africa has taken this lead and gone to the ICJ, because they feel that they have suffered apartheid. They have suffered in the past at the hands of those who were subjecting them to criminalities, brutalities, and those who were targeting them because of their race and color. So they have a common factor. I mean, they have common past when they compare themselves to people living in Gaza, the Palestinians.
Of course. So what do you make of these provisional measures that have been ordered to Israel?
I think it's a moral victory, and the United Nations and other international community, particularly the Western countries, should abide by this ruling. I mean, they should come, at least they should listen to what ICJ has said. I don't expect the United States, UK and some other countries heeding to this ruling of ICJ. But generally, the south of the global south and other countries of the world who are overwhelmingly supporting Palestinian and a new state or a separate state for Palestinian, they are on this side. So I think it is going to have a huge legal, moral and ethical victory for the Palestinian people. So in the days to come, I feel that ICJ ruling is going to play a great role in determining the future of Gaza and the Palestinians. Also, there are news that Israelis, Americans and some other Western countries, UK, Qatar, they are already talking to each other to basically put an end to this brutality that is being unleashed on the people of Gaza. So let's hope that given the ruling of ICJ and the diplomatic efforts, the war will finish there, will come to an end.
Right. We have been hopeful since October 7th, since the start of this war. But Sheharyar, when we talk about the ongoing situation within Gaza, in that context, how significant are these 6 provisional measures that have been ordered to Israel? Because we have witnessed that there has been still ongoing onslaught on Gazans.
So Maryam, obviously this ruling is a huge legal setback for Israel. And if we look at the ruling, it has like a lot of like damning evidence against the Israeli government. First of all, it has basically said that there is plausible evidence that genocide is being committed. So that is like basically taking all of the allegations that South Africa took to the court, and they agreed with most of it. Other than that, they have also directed the Israeli government to prevent any acts of genocide. They have also said that Israel has to give access of humanitarian support to all the Palestinians. It has also talked about incitement to genocide as well. So a lot of like government officials from Israel, they have been inciting genocide as well.
Inflammatory statements.
Yeah. So they've said you have to investigate it and you have to punish anyone who is basically inciting genocide. Other than that, one very important part of the ruling, that any evidence that points to genocide in Gaza should not be covered up. So Israel government also has to make sure that this area gets unfettered access by international journalists. We've like seen that a lot of like footage that comes out of Gaza, Israel basically looks at the footage first, and then it allows international journalists or international news outlets to publish it. So Israel is also
the killing of journalists as in other issues.
Over 100 up till now. So journalists are the key line, the first line of information that comes from any conflict, and Israel is like controlling access to information as well. So the court has also pointed towards that. Other than that, it's very important that Israel will also be presenting a report on all of these measures. Within 30 days, Israel has to present that. So that's like one side, that's a major moral and a very legal win.
So although the ICJ did not include any wording regarding the genocide happening, it fell short of actual condemnation. But when in reality, of course, this ruling cannot be implemented in practice unless there is stopping of the genocide happening, right?
So Maria, we have to look at it from a legal angle, whatever you are saying right now. So the court also hasn't said that there is no genocide. They have said that there is plausible evidence that genocide is occurring and it should be stopped. Now what's the difference between what you were saying and what the court is saying? So now to basically investigate it in detail, it takes a long time. Right now
it might take years, 2 to 3 years minimum.
So when it comes to Gambia versus Myanmar, when the whole Rohingya Muslim issue was taking place, and when it came to Bosnia and Herzegovina, like that issue in terms of like genocide, it took 10 years to give a decision in that. But what Israel basically wanted all of these allegations to be thrown out of the court. They basically
wanted it failed.
So that basically means the court said that yes, there is evidence that the genocide is taking place. So what the court fell short of, where disappointment comes in, it fell short of saying that there should be a ceasefire. And that's also what all of the South African lawyers also were asking for, that right now we need a ceasefire.
Don't you think this is a very intelligent decision, because by falling short of the actual condemnation wording, of course they did not get any opposition from US or UK who have been backing Israel, right?
So even right now Israel is not happy with the decision.
Of course they are not.
So they are basically saying even this decision coming from the ICJ is outrageous. And if you remember, even before this decision was coming out, Prime Minister Netanyahu very clearly said that we will not take any decisions coming from The Hague. We will not respect any decisions coming from ICJ as well, which is again like, it's a statement that comes from a pariah state, a state that does not recognize any rules-based order as well. So now that this decision has come, it's a major pressure on a lot of countries that are supporting Israel, like the US, the UK, and a lot of other Western countries. They would be very careful not to become a part of the genocide that is taking place. If they're like providing them with weapons, if they're like providing them with the unfettered access to capital, unfettered access to international technology that can be used against the people of Gaza, then there is a chance that they can also be implicated in supporting the genocide, and that's not what they want to like see.
Right. So, Dr. Hasnain, can you tell us that how does this ICJ's decision align with the actual genocide convention?
So the very important and pertinent question, but Mr. Sheharyar is pointing out very well that the real thing is that what is the reaction to ICJ ruling by the Israel and by the United States of America? These two important components and the elements are very much important in this whole scenario. If they are not accepting any ruling, then what is the matter to discuss? But Israel is required to submit a report to court on the step it has taken to comply with the order within 1 month of the ruling. Now, this is very much important part. The court will examine in the detail and the merits of the case, a process which could take years, as Sheharyar said, might take 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. So Israel is obliged to detail how, when, where it has taken the compulsory measure not only to prevent the genocide, but also the incitement to genocide and to allow the humanitarian aid to reach the starving and destitute souls who call the devastated enclave home. And while the ICJ's decisions are final and without appeal, the court has no way to enforce them. So as a result, the court is required by international law to proceed with a full hearing and ultimately to render a verdict on a seminal question: is Israel guilty of the crime of genocide in Gaza? That is very much important. And also we have to refer the Genocide Convention of 1948, Genocide Convention. All knows that what is in it, so I don't want to discuss more on it. But the Palestine broadly welcomed Friday ruling that is very much important. But Israeli Prime Minister, his reaction is very much important to discuss. So Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the charge of genocide leveled against Israel was outrageous and said it would do whatever is necessary to find itself. Israel had unwavering commitment to international law, he said. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant expressed dismay, and the IGC did not react to South Africa petition outright. While National Security Minister Itmar bin Gavir appealed to the ruling with the Yadish style put down on the social media platform X, and huge another thing. And the IGC judge assessed that fact and the law, they rule in the favor of humanity and international law. Palestinian Foreign Minister Ilyas says senior Hamas official Sami Abu Zari said the ruling helped to isolate Israel on the world stage. So precisely and shortly.
Right, of course. That is also very important, that it has isolated Israel on world stage as well. But Mr. Javed, when we talk about this significant petition filed by South Africa, again, like you earlier mentioned about the importance of a country from the global south who had been, of course, victim in the history, taking this case into ICJ. How significant is this for humanity, that a country like South Africa took this case to ICJ and then its ruling came, of course, in favor of South Africa?
Yes, I think this ruling that emerged.
Do you think there is still hope for a change or positivity in the international world order?
Yes, I think the countries, overwhelming number of countries have supported this ICJ ruling, and they've also supported South Africa going going to the International Court of Justice, because no other country was basically taking any initiative. And you know, there has been huge criticism against Islamic countries, that why an Islamic country didn't go to ICJ, because they were more concerned and they were more affected by this this tragedy. South Africa has taken the lead, and we must appreciate. It's a very, very laudable effort on the part of South Africa, because South Africans have suffered similar situation, and they were aware of the consequences, implications of such an
So
act.
they understand the pain of course, Palestinians.
They understood it.
But when, of course, this decision is significant, but when we talk about the enforcement of these measures, how do you think, what challenges might arise in implementing those measures? Because Israeli Prime Minister, as we know, have, of course,
the challenges
outrightly
are that they are basically not taking it seriously. The Israeli leadership is just not taking it seriously, and they don't seem to be ready to implement it. And the way the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has reacted to it, saying it is outrageous. And one of their ministers has jokingly said, this is, I mean, he said something which is very outrageous itself. So I think that Israelis are not serious to listen to or heed to ICJ ruling, because they are absolutely insensitive to this the international voice.
There is not an mechanism available that can enforce this decision.
And one of the proposals is to take this ruling to the United Nations Security Council.
And they are to sit on Wednesday.
Yes, and they are thinking about it. But the fact is that Israelis have been emboldened by the support which they are getting from the United States, from Western countries, UK, Canada, and some other countries. They are backing Israel, and they are providing them weapons, and they are using these weapons against the innocent Palestinians, and particularly the people of Gaza. Almost 30,000 people living in Gaza have been killed, hospitals destroyed, schools destroyed, and even they didn't spare the United Nations offices, aid offices. Hospitals are not there to basically treat the injured people, who are also in thousands. So I think Israel is a state which is not going to listen to any voice of reason, and they are not going to take pressure or a moral pressure, because this state of Israel, as Qaeda-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan, had said earlier in 1947 that it is an illegitimate state, and therefore Israel is not listening to any voice of sanity, any moral or ethical values. They have no importance to Israel. So I think they will just not bother about it. They will just spurn it as they have done it. But the international community must come forward and taking this ICJ ruling seriously, and they should try to implement it, and at least they should build pressure on Israel to stop this genocide of Palestinians and seize there must not be any war. It must come to an end. That is, that is a universal demand.
Right. But Sheharyar, when we talk about all this scenario, how might this ICJ's decision influence the political landscape within Israel? Because there is a lot of pressure on the government as well for early elections. So do you think that adds some added influence or pressure on Netanyahu?
So Maryam, there is 2 points to that. One, as long as the conflict elongates and it continues, it's good for Netanyahu, because this way he can prolong the war, he can also prolong the elections as well, and he's trying to gain popularity, that is like taking a stance for the Israeli population. But when it comes to the rescue of the hostages that are like there's like mounting pressure coming from the public as well, that Netanyahu is not doing enough when it comes to negotiations with Hamas. So that pressure is mounting. Other than that, a lot of people now basically know that there are like a lot of like allegations when it comes to corruption on Netanyahu. There are like a lot of like court decisions that are pending. And Netanyahu, because he wants to elongate this conflict, he wants the people to like have an attention more on the conflict rather than his failure as the Prime Minister of Israel.
But don't you think this decision adds another failure in the list of failures of Netanyahu's government? And do you see narrative surrounding Israel's aggression in Gaza is changing now?
So the narrative is definitely
both globally and of course within Israel as well?
So narrative definitely is changing. Netanyahu and a lot of his ministers have also like very openly rejected a two-state solution. Now even a country such as the US, which has given it unfettered access to capital, to its backing, to the weapons that it's providing, even the leadership in the US has basically said that we basically propose and we will back a two-state solution. And if Netanyahu rejects it, we will not be standing by his side. And this whole narrative is also being accepted by the rest of Europe and a lot of like allies of the US. So Netanyahu and a lot of his ministers who are very pro-war, they're already losing the battle of the narrative. When it comes to the access of humanitarian aid and around 30,000 civilians, mostly women and children, that has like resonated in the rest of the world as well, especially the global south. And as we know that South Africa has taken the lead in taking Israel to task. So this is not just South Africa. We have to like see it right now. The leadership from the global south is being taken over by South Africa. And this is the first time that a country of the global south is using the same rules-based order that has been propagated mainly by Western countries, and it is judging the Western countries on the same rules-based order. And they're basically saying that this is the rules-based order that you basically propagated after the Second World War.
But Dr. Hasnain, when we talk about this rule-based order, do you think this also puts in question the legitimacy of international order and international system if Israel failed to comply with these, of course, measures?
It's already a huge question mark on the all the probable whatsoever you say it's arbitrary councils. I mean, they can't do anything. They can't do for Israel. Israel is not looking for the two-state solution. Even the global impact of the ruling, I mean, they have emerged with the two important rulings, and this ruling compart global into two dimensions. Like two camps have emerged. The first has hailed the court's decision as watershed moment. Israel has been held finally to account after the decades of the evading accountability for the litany of the outrage it has committed against generation after generation of Palestine. Another lasting and overreaching import of the court decrees is the Israel Western Bank and a tolerance license to displace the Maryam and the killed Palestinians without consequence in overall ruling. And even on the US response, you have seen that there is no care. Let me tell you, power is power. Whosoever is the power will take the game, and Israel is not bothering any of the solution, any of the UN Council, any of the ICJs. Believe in me, they don't even care about that, because to me is the optimist in my hopes that ICJ ruling hasn't somehow the end for good of the murderous madness and the quick returns of the Israeli held by Hamas to their disponent family. And the Palestinian in me suspect that nothing will change soon on the ground in Gaza and occupied West Bank, and the slaughter of the innocent will go on. Palestinian children, the old and the infants
but
will
Dr. Hasnain, as the world is of course still analyzing ICJ's decision, little has changed on ground in Gaza. We know that of course more than 26,000 innocent civilians, mostly children, have died so far. And of course when we talk about the residential units, 360,000 plus residential units have been destroyed, and 14 out of 35 hospitals are only partially functional. So how do you see this situation, of course, unfolding in the context of this ICJ's decision with little change on ground?
Is that something happen in Kashmir? Is that something happen in Myanmar? Is that anything happen in any of the country? Is there any solution for the Muslims or the less in power? Is there any happenings by the ICJ ruling or the UN ruling or the peacekeeping missions? What is there? Is there anything happens? No, of course not. So US respond in the ruling is the most important. You must understand what power needs. Israel is the power. They have the strings, the US strings in the hand of Israel. The Netanyahu is the one who has kept strings alive, and he used all the strings in his way. In the calculated and cynical attempt to deviate the attention from the remarkable proceeding at the Hague, and the White House announced the suspension of its relatively partially aid to the UN relief and the work agencies for the Palestinian refugees.
Right, of course,
What has
very
done?
important point highlighted, Dr. Hasnain, and I want to take this point to Javed Saab. Javed Saab, what are the consequences of these funding pauses by US and other countries when we talk about, of course, UNRWA, given the allegations that were made against UNRWA employees by Israel?
I think this is basically Israel is trying to build a narrative which has no feet to stand on. They are trying to hoodwink the world through these kind of manufactured narratives, and I believe that Israel stands naked before the entire world what it is doing to Palestinians and particularly the people of Gaza. So in order to defend itself, it's defenseless. Israel is absolutely defenseless from moral perspective, from legal perspective, and from the international conventions and law. So therefore, it is trying to defend its genocide efforts. It is trying to defend its bombardment, brutal bombardment on Gaza, a small piece of land, and thousands of bombs are being dropped there. Missiles are being used, explosive material is being used, and it is being supplied by the Western countries, and they are funding it. So I think Israel...
They are funding Israel with the weapons, but on the other hand, the only funding, Sheharyar, only UN funding aid agency have been stopped. So what do you think are going to be consequences for those 2 million people within Gaza?
So, Maryam, this is also points towards the taste of things to come. As ICJ's rulings are not legally binding, and even if this ruling goes into the UN Security Council, it will be vetoed. Now, for the next step, like we were expecting things to change, and now most of the countries that basically fund UNRWA, they've indicated that they will not be funding UNRWA anymore. This is also a pressure tactic. This is also what you call a collective punishment on the people of Gaza that have already been suffering. Now this is the time for rest of the nations from the global south, even countries from GCC, a lot of countries that have funds, they should step up, and they should now voluntarily fund UNRWA, which is now the only standing UN agency that will support the Gazan refugees and people of Palestine. And this is a moral duty now on the developing countries, countries of the global south, countries that have the funds, countries that have the economic backing to basically step up. Even if these countries have failed to fund it, they should step up and they should play their role now.
Right. So, Dr. Sen, in the light of these increasing, of course, casualties by Israel, what kind of action do you think that United Nations Security Council can take? That we are hoping that another session is to be held on Wednesday. Do you think we can expect a different outcome this time around?
United States will say nothing, because the three important things they say, and their plea on this matter is that you are not controlling the Hezbollah, you are not controlling Hamas. And the Israeli Prime Minister is playing on this point that these are the terrorists and they are attacking all those scenarios. And how can we negotiate under these circumstances where the Hezbollah and Hamas is doing whatever they want? So the recent attack, the three important thing has been done. So attack on the US base, fear of the widened war, and meanwhile in Gaza. So the drone attack killed 3 US service members and wounded more than 30. This is one. Attack comes after the weeks of the effort keeping the Israel-Hamas conflict from spending further through the region. Third, and US President Joe Biden blamed Iran-backed militant group and vowed to hold them responsible. Iran denied any involvement. That's true. I know. They denied, but they says that. And third important thing is the main UN agency is included the urging country to reconsider cutting of funding over allegation staff of the member were involved in October 7 Hamas attack on Israel. Remember, and fighting around the hospitals in the southern city of the Khan Yunis continued into the 7th day, and the medical supply and the vending and aid and group of the claims and beside Israeli forces. Now, considering all the facts, the very important matters, this is the serious subject of the vendetta. This is the serious subject of conflict. And on the one side, Hamas and Hezbollah is not stopping and they are not negotiating with the other world and the UN. And here, the Israel is going on the other side. And of course, US is completely with them. So this resolution, I can't see in a very soon time. It will increase, not will decrease.
Right. So, of course, when we talk about the stats, with 1% a population of Gaza being killed and more than 2.2% injured, what broader consequences do you think these stats signify about the magnitude of this conflict?
Well, this has never happened. I think it is unprecedented in the history of the world that on such a small place, such huge number of bombs, missiles and drones have been used. You know, if you look,
and we are witnessing, unfortunately, the live broadcast of this genocide.
But the world conscious, unfortunately, is not reacting to it. Particularly the big powers who can influence the Israeli military and Israeli leadership to stop this genocide, to stop this killing, stop these brutalities. They seem to be totally, they have failed to convince Israel, and they have not been able to build that much pressure on Israeli leadership to stop this brutality and barbarism. So I think, again I would say that unless the United States, the duplicity of the United States, other big world powers is quite evident here. They are not doing enough. They have not been able to basically put pressure on Israel to allow the humanitarian aid to go to those people who are crying, who are injured and lying in hospitals without medicines, without oxygen, without life-saving drugs. So what kind of international order is this? The United Nations were created to bring peace and stability in the world post-World War II, but all those objectives for which the United Nations were created have been defeated by the United Nations Security Council and particularly the permanent members of the Security Council.
Right, but of course we are hearing reports about another United Nations Security Council session to be held soon. Do you think we can expect a different outcome with US actually not vetoing this time around?
Well, I don't.
After this significant ICJ decision?
ICJ ruling, yes, the United States must respect it.
Because there is a lot of pressure, moral pressure.
Within the United States there is a pressure, and hundreds of thousands of people have come on streets of the United States to protest these brutalities leashed on the people of Gaza by Netanyahu and his defense forces. But I don't expect that the United States would abstain from vetoing it. They will veto it, and I think they will leave everything in the hands of Israel, because the elections are around the corner in the United States, and the presidential candidates always try to win the support of Jews and Israel during the election campaign. So I don't expect, but if the United States...
You're not very hopeful about...
I'm not hopeful about
a different outcome from UNSC this time around as well. But Sheharyar, when we talk about this funding stoppage of UNRWA after allegations against some of the staff members, how do you think this is going to be impacting the humanitarian aid delivery system? Because we know that this was the only largest agency that was working with the refugees. So what would be happening to the healthcare system and the food insecurity that is very apparent in Gaza today?
So, Maryam, this will have a devastating impact on the humanitarian aid that already is trickling down to the Palestinian people. When it comes to the ruling of the ICJ, they're very clear. They clearly said that access to humanitarian support and humanitarian aid should be given to the Palestinians without any hindrance or without any stoppage. So, but then again, if you look at Israel, they've like already made a mockery of the international rules-based order. And they've also like clearly said that, you know, these judgments or these rulings are not binding upon them, and they will not stop unless or until their objectives are met. So this basically adds pressure on the US and the allies that are backing Israel, and a lot of like public pressure that is like coming from the bottoms up. And we like see that there's a lot of disconnect now from what the people, when it comes to a lot of like Western countries, even countries of the global South and their leadership. So there's a lot of disconnect.
And what do you make of the recent extraordinary session of Arab League on the issue?
So again, there's like a lot of like pressure come, and a lot of like countries from the Middle East, not just the Arab League. We look at Middle East, we look at GCC, and a lot of like other countries from the global South. They're feeling the pressure from their public as well, and the public is demanding their leadership that they should take decisive actions to help and support the Palestinian people, to help and support the cause of Palestine, and work towards a two-state solution so incidents like this never happen again in the future. But right now, first things first, we all have to like lobby and make our voices heard to at least bring this whole conflict to a ceasefire, and then the reconstruction can start. For that, we will be needing a lot of like funds again. And I don't think the global South will be at a position to fund the reconstruction as well. And we'll also have to pressurize Israeli government to let the refugees return to that land. I personally feel that Israel will try its best to even take over the geographical location and the area and the territory of Gazans, and they would want to expand the Israeli settlements there as well. That is what their longer term Greater Israel plan already is. And we will need the collective wisdom and power of the world to stop Israel from basically taking over that territory.
And of course, Dr. Sen, like Sheharyar also mentioned about Israel's plans, and of course we are hearing the terms like the day after. Do you think, keeping in mind the current situation, the day after exists and a sustainable future for Gazans exist?
That's important. Of course, it exists. Just try to understand.
Or has the destruction gone too far? Because the destruction has gone too far.
Yeah, it is going to happen. Definitely, it is going to happen. Let me tell you one thing. America is under the debt of $33 trillion. $33 trillion is whole economy is under the debt, and it is under the debt of the just 6 million of the very important Rockefellers and BlackRock. And you know, all these huge companies are backed by what? So Israel has an immense power on America, and whatsoever people says, whatsoever people on the road, and they are talking about the Gaza, and they are talking about the Palestine, and they are listening to the 26,000 people are dead, 64,487 Palestinians wounded since start from the war of October 7. About 2/3 of those were killed were women and children. Complete genocide. Everybody knows. Past 24 hours, 183 people were killed and 377 were injured. Out of all, nobody can do anything because the BlackRock and Rockefeller and the $33 trillion of the debt is using everywhere, and nobody can go against the will of Israel. So you just need to go down deep and understand what is happening. All of the Muslim countries are weak in their power. They cannot make and they cannot resist what is happening, and UN is never to the Kashmir side, to the Myanmar side, to the weaker side, and they never get us to the peace and wherever it is necessary. So I can't see, and I know they will go and they will achieve their objective or whatever they had in the mind. So Netanyahu go on this way in the way whatever it is. But the ICJ ruling or on the Israel, the court order Israel to refrain from any act that could fall under the Genocide Convention and to ensure its troops commit to no genocide act in Gaza. We are welcoming this ruling, but I'm looking forward.
Of
I'm
course,
seriously
of course,
looking
but
forward, and I have a big
of course,
question on it.
most of the
whether it happens
countries
or not.
have welcomed this ruling, including Palestine, and of course Pakistan has also welcomed this
Yes.
ruling. But Dr. Hasnain, the question remains, does a sustainable future exist for Palestine, keeping in mind all the destruction? Do you think the destruction has gone too far, and these rulings or these measures can make Israel actually accountable?
They are accountable. The slaughter goes on. The other thing goes on. They might well, completely finish. God forbid, God forbid, God forbid. I don't want to say this, but I can see more dangerous things to come on the way, and I'm not optimistic about this, because nothing will happen, because the old Muslim nation and Muslim Ummah is that way too weak. They cannot put their voice up, and everybody is under the pressure of the financial debt. Everybody is under the debt of the different or IMF or whatsoever you say. So nobody can do anything, as we have done nothing for any of the Muslim nation, and Muslim nations are not united, as you know that. So nothing will happen, and they will succeed whatever they want, and they do whatever they want, they do. So it is going the way it has to.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Hasnain Javed, for your valuable input. Thank you very much, Mr. Javed Siddiq, for joining us in today's
I
program.
just want to add
Sure,
one thing,
sure, please.
that the future of Palestinian lies in the fact that the United States, the European Union, who are now backing Israel, they have already agreed two-state theory, two nations or two-state theory
Solution,
for Palestine.
yes.
That ensures the future of Palestinian people. And if the European Union and the US are serious in implementing this formula, two-state theory for the solution of Palestine problem, then this future of Palestinian and Gazan can be secured.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Sheharyar Khan, for joining us in today's program. Of course, this is a crisis that will serve as a test case for human rights slogans in the current century, and it has to be seen that how humanity will emerge from this test. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.